Welcome, everybody. What if I told you that everything you have been chasing, peace, success, fulfillment, has been waiting for you all along inside of you? The moment you stop bending, stop people pleasing, and start focusing on yourself, life begins to rearrange itself in ways you never thought possible. There comes a moment in life when the noise gets too loud. The opinions, the expectations, the comparisons, the pressure to be everything for everyone. It starts to weigh heavy on your spirit. You wake up tired, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally drained. You try to pour into others, but your own cup feels empty. And somewhere in the middle of trying to keep it all together, you begin to lose sight of yourself. That's where the shift has to happen. Not when everything is perfect. Not when people finally understand you. Not when life slows down. The shift begins when you decide that you matter too. When you choose to turn inward instead of constantly reaching outward. When you stop asking, what do they need from me? And start asking, what do they need from me? Because the truth is, everything starts to align when you focus on yourself, not in a selfish way, but in a healing, growing, becoming kind of way. You've spent so much time trying to prove your worth to people who were never qualified to define it. You've exhausted your energy trying to fix situations that were never yours to carry. You've bent, you stretched, you've bent, you stretched, you've broken yourself just to fit into spaces that were too small for your purpose. And now you're wondering why you feel lost. It's because you've been everywhere except where you needed to be within yourself. Focusing on yourself is not about shutting the world out. It's about tuning your soul back in. It's about getting honest with who you are, and where you're going. It's about facing the parts of you that you have ignored, the dreams you have postponed, the healing you have delayed. When you focus on yourself, you begin to notice things you didn't see before. You realize how much of your time was spent seeking validation instead of building confidence. You recognize the patterns that kept you stuck. You understand that not everything you lost was meant to stay, and not everyone who walked away was meant to stay, and not everyone who walked away was meant to stay connected to your journey. And suddenly, what felt like rejection starts to look like redirection. There's a power that comes from choosing yourself, even when it feels uncomfortable, especially when it feels uncomfortable, especially when it feels uncomfortable. Because growth doesn't come from staying where it's easy. It comes from stepping into the unfamiliar with courage and faith. You might lose some people along the way. You might outgrow conversations, environments, and even versions of yourself. And that can feel lonely at times, but don't mistake loneliness for emptiness. Sometimes being alone is exactly what you need to rediscover your strength, your voice, your identity. You can't hear your own thoughts when the world is too loud. You can't see your own path when you're constantly walking someone else's. And you can't become who you're meant to be if you're holding on to who you used to be. So give yourself permission to evolve. Give yourself permission to rest without guilt, to say no without explanation, to choose peace over proving a point, to walk away from what drains you and walk toward what fuels you. When you focus on yourself, your priorities start to change. What once felt urgent becomes irrelevant. What once felt impossible becomes achievable. You stop chasing things that don't align with your purpose and start attracting things that do. It's not magic, it's alignment. Your energy shifts, your mindset strengthens, your decisions become clearer. And as you begin to show up differently for yourself, life starts responding differently to you. You start to understand that your value was never dependent on how much you could give to others. Your worth was never measured by how much you could endure. You were never meant to sacrifice your peace just to keep others comfortable. You were never meant to grow, to heal, to rise. And that process begins when you stop neglecting yourself. There are parts of you that are still waiting for your attention. The dreams you buried because you were afraid of failure. The passions you ignored because you were too busy surviving. The wounds you covered instead of confronting. Focusing on yourself means you go back and reclaim those parts. It means you sit with your pain instead of running from it. You learn from your mistakes instead of being defined by them. You forgive yourself for what you didn't know and commit to doing better with what you do know now. This is where transformation happens, not overnight, not instantly, but consistently. Every time you choose growth over comfort, you're transforming. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you're evolving. Every time you choose self-respect over people-pleasing, you're becoming stronger. And as you keep choosing yourself, something incredible begins to happen. Your life starts to fall into place. Not because everything becomes perfect, but because you become grounded, you become focused, you become inclined, you become focused, you become intentional. And when you're intentional, you stop wasting energy on things that don't serve you. You begin to build a life that reflects who you truly are, not who others expect you to be. You stop comparing your journey to someone else's timeline. You stop rushing your progress. You stop doubting your potential because you realize that your path is yours for a reason. And when you honor that path, when you walk it with confidence and clarity, things start aligning in ways you couldn't have planned. Opportunities find you. Peace finds you. The right people find you. Not because you chase them, but because you became the version of yourself that attracts them. That's what happens when you focus on yourself that attracts them. You become magnetic, not because you're trying to impress, but because you're being authentic. You become powerful, not because you control everything, but because you control yourself. You become unstoppable, not because life stops challenging you, but because you stop doubting your ability to overcome. And let's be honest, it's not always easy. There will be days when you question your progress, days when old habits try to pull you back, days when the comfort of your past feels safer than the uncertainty of your future. But don't let temporary discomfort stop permanent growth. You didn't come this far just to stay where you are. Keep going. Keep choosing yourself even when it feels unfamiliar. Keep investing in your growth even when it feels slow. Keep believing in your potential even when you can't see the full picture yet, because everything you're building within yourself will eventually reflect in your reality. Your mindset will shape your outcomes. Your discipline will determine your direction. Your focus will create your future. So don't get distracted by what others are doing. Don't get discouraged by what hasn't happened yet. Don't get discouraged by what hasn't happened yet. Don't get caught up in trying to control things that are outside of you. Focus on what you can control, your thoughts, your actions, your energy. That's where your power is. And when you operate from that place, you realize that you're not waiting for life to change. You're creating the change. You're no longer a victim of your circumstances. You're the author of your story. You are no longer reacting to everything around you. You are responding with intention and purpose. And that's when everything starts to shift. The confusion becomes clarity. The chaos becomes calm. The pressure becomes purpose because you're no longer scattered. You're centered. You're no longer chasing. You are aligned. You are no longer lost. You're still becoming. And the more you lean into that process, the more you trust it, the more you commit to it, the more your life begins to reflect it. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to be willing to focus on yourself enough to grow through whatever you're facing. Because at the end of the day, the most important relationship you will ever have is the one you have with yourself. And when that relationship is strong, everything else has a way of falling into place. There comes a time when you realize that constantly looking outward for approval is the very thing keeping you stuck inwardly. You begin to notice how much of your energy has been spent trying to be seen, trying to be accepted, trying to be enough for people who never truly took the time to understand you. And in that realization, something inside you starts to shift. You recognize that the validation you've been chasing has been distracting you from the value that already exists within you. For so long, you may have measured your worth based on how others responded to you. If they applauded you, you felt confident. If they ignored you, you questioned yourself. If they criticized you, you shrank. And without even realizing it, you handed over your identity to opinions that were never meant to define you. But focusing on yourself means taking that power back. It means understanding that your worth is not a negotiation. It's a truth. It doesn't increase when people praise you, and it doesn't decrease when they overlook you. When you begin to focus on yourself, you start to develop a deeper awareness of who you are beyond the noise. You learn to sit with your own thoughts, to understand your own emotions, to recognize your own emotions, to recognize your own patterns. And that kind of awareness is powerful because it allows you to grow intentionally instead of reacting impulsively. You stop being driven by what others expect from you and start being guided by what truly aligns with you. There is a difference between living a life that looks good and living a life that feels right. And many people spend years chasing appearances, trying to build something that impresses others while feeling empty on the inside. But when you focus on yourself, your priorities begin to shift. You no longer care as much about how things look. You care about how they feel. You want peace more than you want approval. You want purpose more than you want attention. You want authenticity more than you want perfection. And that shift changes everything, because when you're no longer trying to fit into spaces that don't honor who you are, you naturally begin to create space for what does. You stop forcing connections that drain you. You stop intonation situations that confuse you. You stop saying yes when your spirit is screaming no, and in doing so, you protect your energy in a way that allows you to grow stronger, clearer, and more focused. Focusing on yourself also requires honesty, and not the kind of honesty that's easy or comfortable, but the kind that challenges you to confront the truth about where you are in your life. It asks you to look at your habits, your mindset, your choices, and take responsibility for the role you've played in your own experiences. That can be difficult. B, because it's easier to blame others than it is to reflect on ourselves, but growth begins the moment you stop pointing fingers and start looking in the mirror. It's in that moment that you realize you have more control than you thought. You may not control everything that happens to you, but you do control how you respond, how you grow, and how you move forward. And when you focus on that, you stop feeling powerless. You stop waiting for someone else to fix your situation or validate your feelings. You start becoming the person who takes action, who makes decisions, who creates change. There's also a level of discipline that comes with focusing on yourself. It's not just about thinking differently. It's about living differently. It's about choosing habits that support your growth, even when you don't feel like it. It's about showing up for yourself on the days when motivation is low and doubt is high. It's about committing to your healing, your goals, your peace, even when the process feels slow, because focusing on yourself is not an instant transformation. It's a daily practice. It's waking up and deciding that your mindset matters. It's choosing not to entertain negative thoughts that try to limit you. It's reminding yourself that you are capable, even when things feel uncertain. It's taking small steps consistently, trusting that those steps are leading you somewhere meaningful. And as you stay committed to that process, you begin to notice changes within yourself. You become more confident, not because everything is perfect, but because you trust yourself more. You become more at peace, not because life is easy, but because you've learned how to protect your energy. You become more focused, not because there are no distractions, but because you have learned what truly deserves your attention. One of the most powerful things about focusing on yourself is that it teaches you to be comfortable in your own presence. You no longer feel the need to constantly surround yourself with people just to avoid being alone. You learn to enjoy your own company, to find clarity in your solitude, to build strength in your independence. And that kind of comfort changes the way you show up in the world. Because when you're not afraid of being alone, you stop settling for connections that don't fulfill you. You stop tolerating behavior that disrespects you. You stop holding on to relationships out of fear instead of alignment. You begin to choose people and environments that match the level of growth you've committed to. And that's where alignment begins to take shape. Alignment is not something you chase. It's something you create by becoming the version of yourself that lives in truth. When your thoughts, your actions, and your values are in sync, your life starts to feel more balanced. You're no longer pulled in different directions trying to please everyone. You're grounded in who you are, and that grounding gives you clarity. With that clarity, your decisions become easier. You don't overthink every choice because you understand what aligns with you and what doesn't. You don't feel the need to explain yourself to everyone because you're confident in your direction. You don't get easily shaken by opinions because you're rooted in your identity. And as that alignment grows, so does your confidence. Not the kind of confidence that seeks attention, but the kind that radiates from within, the kind that doesn't need to prove anything because it knows its worth. The kind that walks into a room and doesn't shrink, doesn't compare, doesn't doubt, but simply exists in its truth. That confidence influences every area of your life. It shows up in the way you communicate. You speak with clarity instead of hesitation. It shows up in the way you handle challenges. You respond with strength instead of fear. It shows up in the way you pursue your goals. You take action instead of waiting for the perfect moment. And as you continue focusing on yourself, you begin to trust the process of your life in a deeper way. You stop rushing your journey because you understand that growth takes time. You stop comparing your progress because you recognize that your path is unique. You stop doubting your potential because you've seen what happens when you stay consistent. That trust allows you to move with intention instead of pressure. You're no longer trying to force things to happen. You're no longer chasing every opportunity that comes your way. Instead, you're intentional about where you invest your time, your energy, your focus. You're selective because you understand that not everything deserves access to you, and that selectiveness protects your alignment. Because every time you say yes to something that doesn't align with you, you pull yourself away from your own growth. But every time you say no to what doesn't serve you, you create space for what does. Focusing on yourself also deepens your relationship with your purpose. You begin to understand what truly matters to you, what drives you, what fulfills you. You are no longer influenced by what others think you should do. You are guided by what feels right for you. And when you move in that direction, things start to flow differently. And when you move in that direction, things start to flow differently. You find yourself in the right places at the right times. You connect with people who understand your vision. You experience opportunities that align with your goals, not because you forced it, but because you positioned yourself for it. That's the power of alignment that comes from focusing on yourself. It's not about controlling every outcome. It's about becoming the kind of person who is prepared for the right outcomes. And preparation happens within. It happens when you work on your mindset, when you build your discipline, when you strengthen your self-awareness. It happens when you commit to becoming better instead of just wishing for better. Because at the end of the day, your external life is a reflection of your internal state. If your mind is scattered, your life will feel chaotic. If your energy is drained, your progress will feel slow. If your focus is divided, your results will be inconsistent. But when you focus on yourself, when you align your thoughts, your actions, and your intentions, everything begins to shift in a way that feels natural and steady. You stop feeling like you're forcing your life to work, and you start experiencing what it feels like when things fall into place because you've done the inner work to support it. Letting go is one of the hardest things you will ever be called to do. Not because you don't understand that something is no longer right for you, but because a part of you is still attached to what it used to be. You hold on to memories, to potential, to the way things felt in the beginning. You tell yourself that maybe if you try harder, if you wait longer, if you change a little more, things will turn around. Things will turn around. But deep down, there is a quiet voice reminding you that what you're holding on to is no longer aligned with who you're becoming. And that's where the tension begins. Because growth requires movement, but attachment keeps you stuck. Growth asks you to evolve, but attachment keeps you tied to what is familiar. And even when what's familiar is no longer healthy, it can still feel safer than stepping into the unknown. So you stay longer than you should. You stay in conversations that drain you, in environments that limit you, and in relationships that no longer nurture you. Not because you don't see the truth, but because letting go feels like losing something important. It feels like failure. It feels like starting over. It feels like starting over. It feels like admitting that something you once believed in is no longer meant for you. But what if letting go is not a loss? What if it's a necessary release? What if the very thing you're afraid to walk away from is the very thing that's preventing you from stepping into something greater? Because the reality is you cannot grow into a new version of yourself while holding on to everything that belonged to the old one. There has to be space for transformation, and that space can only be created through release. Letting go is not about forgetting or pretending that something didn't matter. It's about acknowledging that it served its purpose in your life and accepting that its season has come to an end. It's about honoring the role it played without allowing it to define your future. There are things you've outgrown, even if they once felt like everything to you. There are people you've connected with who were meant to walk with you for a chapter, not for your entire story. There are habits you developed in survival mode that no longer serve you in your growth season. And holding on to those things out of comfort or fear only delays your progress. You have to be willing to release what no longer aligns, even when it's difficult, even when it hurts, even when it hurts, even when you don't fully understand what comes next. Because growth is not just about what you gain, it's also about what you're willing to let go of. And sometimes what you're holding on to is not just external, it's internal. It's the version of yourself that you've outgrown but still identify with. The mindset that once protected you but now limits you. The beliefs that were shaped by your past experiences but no longer reflect your present truth. Letting go means shedding those layers. It means allowing yourself to evolve, Bayo, and the person you had to be in order to survive. It means recognizing that who you were is not who you have to remain. And that can feel uncomfortable because there is a strange familiarity in staying the same. Even if the same is painful, it's predictable. Even if it's limiting, it's known. But growth requires you to step into the unfamiliar. It requires you to trust that what you're moving toward is greater than what you're leaving behind, even if you can't fully see it yet. And that kind of trust doesn't come easily. It comes from making a decision that your future matters more than your past attachments. It comes from believing that your peace is worth protecting, that your growth is worth prioritizing, that your purpose is worth pursuing. Letting go is also about releasing control. You may have tried to control outcomes, to fix situations, to change people, to force things to work. You invested your time, your energy, your emotions, hoping that your effort would be enough to create the result you wanted. But not everything is yours to control. And when you hold on to that illusion of control, you end up exhausting yourself trying to manage things that were never in your hands. Letting go means surrendering that need to control everything. It means accepting that some things are simply not meant for you, no matter how much you want them to be. It means trusting that what is truly aligned with you will not require you to lose yourself to keep it. And that surrender creates freedom. Freedom from overthinking. Freedom from constantly trying to fix what is broken. Freedom from carrying emotional weight that doesn't belong to you. It allows you to redirect your energy toward things that actually contribute to your growth. Because every time you hold on to something that drains you, you take away energy from something that could build you. And when you release it, you begin to feel lighter, not instantly, not completely, but gradually. You begin to notice that you have more mental space, more emotional clarity, more capacity to focus on yourself and your journey. That's the space where growth begins to take root. It's in that space that you rediscover parts of yourself that were buried under stress, under fear, under attachment. It's in that space that you reconnect with your goals, your passions, your purpose. Because when you're no longer consumed by what you're trying to hold on to, you have the freedom to explore what's possible. And possibility is where transformation lives. You start to see that life has more to offer than what you were settling for. You start to believe that you deserve more than what you were tolerating. You start to pursue things that align with the person you're becoming instead of the person you used to be. And that shift changes your direction. You begin to make different choices. You begin to set different standards. You begin to set different standards. You begin to create boundaries that protect your growth. Because letting go teaches you the value of your energy. It teaches you that not everything deserves your time, your attention, your presence. It teaches you to be intentional about what you allow into your life. And that intentionality leads to better outcomes. You attract healthier relationships because you no longer accept unhealthy ones. You create better opportunities because you're no longer distracted by things that lead nowhere. You experience more peace because you've removed sources of unnecessary stress. But none of that happens without the courage to let go. And courage doesn't mean you're not afraid. It means you're willing to move forward despite the fear. It means you're willing to trust yourself enough to walk away from what's no longer right, even when you don't have all the answers. Roz, it means you're willing to believe that what's ahead of you is worth the discomfort of leaving something behind. Because holding on may feel safe, but it keeps you stagnant. Letting go may feel safe, but it keeps you stagnant. Letting go may feel uncertain, but it moves you forward. And forward is where your growth is. Forward is where your opportunities are. Forward is where your opportunities are. Forward is where your alignment is waiting. You cannot step into a new season while clinging to the old one. You cannot receive what is meant for you if your hands are full of what no longer serves you. There has to be a release before there can be a renewal. And that release is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength. It takes strength to walk away from what you're used to. It takes strength to choose growth over comfort. It takes strength to trust yourself enough to start again. But that strength is already within you. You've outgrown things before. You've moved forward before. You've adapted, you've learned, you've evolved, and you can do it again. This time with more awareness, this time with more intention, this time with a deeper understanding of what you deserve and what aligns with your journey. Letting go is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of a new chapter, a chapter where you are no longer held back by what you've outgrown. A chapter where you are free to become who you are meant to be. And as you continue to release what no longer serves you, you create space for everything that does. Space for growth, space for clarity, space for purpose, space for the life that is waiting for you on the other side of your willingness to let go. When you begin to understand that inner growth reflects outer success, a profound shift happens in the way you live your life. You start to realize that the time, energy, and focus you invest in yourself are not selfish acts. They are the very foundation for everything you desire. Every decision you make, every habit you cultivate, every thought you nurture within yourself directly influences the reality you experience. The world mirrors the state of your inner life, and the more aligned, disciplined, and focused you become, the more the external world begins to respond accordingly. Many people spend their entire lives trying to chase external validation, hoping that the right circumstances, the right people, or the right opportunities will suddenly create the life they dream of. They chase promotions, accolades, relationships, and social recognition, believing that success lies outside of them. And while these things can be meaningful, they rarely produce lasting fulfillment unless the foundation within is solid. Inner growth. The cultivation of your mindset, your self-awareness, your discipline, your resilience is what transforms temporary victories into lasting achievement. It is what converts fleeting opportunities into consistent progress. The first step toward understanding this is to recognize the power of your mind. Your thoughts, beliefs, and perceptions shape your actions, which in turn shape your outcomes. If you live with doubt, fear, or limiting beliefs, your actions will inevitably reflect those limitations, and your results will follow suit. But when you invest in strengthening your inner life through reflection, learning, prayer, meditation, or disciplined practice, you equip yourself with the tools to take more intentional, confident action. Your mindset becomes sharper, your decisions become clearer, and your ability to navigate challenges increases exponentially. You start to act not out of reaction, but out of purpose, and that intentionality shifts everything around you. Growth within doesn't just improve how you think, it transforms how you handle adversity. Life will always present challenges, setbacks, and disappointments, but your inner strength determines how you respond. When your character is developed and your resilience is nurtured, obstacles no longer feel like barriers. They become opportunities to demonstrate your capacity to rise. You stop being swayed by temporary failures or external opinions because you know your worth is not contingent on outside circumstances. Instead, you respond with strategy, patience, and perseverance, and the consistency of this response begins to produce results in your external world. Discipline is a critical component of this inner growth. Discipline is what turns dreams into reality, intentions into actions, and potential into measurable progress. It is the choice to show up for yourself every day, even when you don't feel motivated, even when life feels difficult, even when distractions call. Inner discipline manifests externally in tangible ways. Your productivity increases, your focus sharpens, your ability to follow through strengthens. It is this consistency powered by internal commitment that ensures that your outer success is not a matter of chance, but a result of deliberate effort. Another aspect of inner growth is emotional intelligence. Your ability to understand, manage, and respond to your emotions shapes your interactions, your relationships, and your decisions. Emotional maturity allows you to navigate conflicts with wisdom rather than reacting impulsively. It helps you create environments where people want to collaborate with you and where opportunities naturally flow because you bring stability, clarity, and integrity into every situation. When you develop emotional awareness, your presence alone becomes a magnet for success because people are drawn to those who operate with composure, confidence, and self assuredness. Self awareness, too, is a cornerstone of inner growth. Understanding your strengths, weaknesses, patterns, and triggers equips you to make choices that are aligned with your purpose. It prevents wasted energy on pursuits that are misaligned and enhances your capacity to leverage opportunities that are truly beneficial. When you are deeply self aware, you can recognize which situations will help you grow and which ones will drain you. This discernment allows you to prioritize your time and energy effectively, leading to better results in every area of your life. The more you know yourself, the more the world knows you, and the more your actions resonate with authenticity, producing outcomes that are aligned with your values and goals. Investing in your skills and knowledge is also a reflection of inner growth. Lifelong learning, continuous improvement, and developing expertise in your areas of interest or work increase your value in ways that are immediately visible in the external world. Knowledge alone may not guarantee success, but when coupled with discipline, clarity, and emotional intelligence, it positions you to take advantage of opportunities that others might miss. Your growth within equips you to handle complexity, to solve problems creatively, and to make decisions with confidence, all of which translate directly into measurable success externally. Inner growth also influences the quality of your relationships. When you cultivate self-respect, emotional awareness, and strong boundaries, you attract people who are similarly aligned with your values and aspirations. You no longer tolerate negativity, manipulation, or distraction, and instead draw in those who support, challenge, and elevate you. The quality of your connections becomes a reflection of the growth you have nurtured inside yourself. You begin to notice that the people who resonate with your energy are drawn to your clarity and strength, while those who are out of alignment naturally drift away. This selective alignment enhances your ability to succeed externally because you are surrounded by individuals who reinforce your vision, not hinder it. Focus and intention, cultivated through inner growth, are essential drivers of external results. When you are clear about your priorities and aligned with your purpose, you begin to channel your energy toward the things that matter most. You stop wasting time on distractions, opinions, or pursuits that do not serve your goals. Your actions become deliberate, strategic, and highly effective, and the outcomes begin to reflect the precision and care of your internal investment. Success then ceases to be random. It becomes a natural consequence of your inner discipline, clarity, and alignment. Resilience, another product of inner growth, determines how long you can persist in the face of setbacks. Life is unpredictable and challenges will always arise, but the more resilient you are internally, the more steadfast you will be externally. Resilience allows you to recover quickly from failure, to maintain confidence in uncertainty, and to continue progressing when others might give up. External success rarely happens in a straight line. It is the ability to endure, adapt, and persist that ensures your vision materializes over time. Inner growth strengthens your resilience, giving you the fortitude to navigate the twists and turns of life without losing sight of your goals. Gratitude and perspective developed through self-reflection also shape external outcomes. By appreciating your current circumstances, acknowledging progress, and recognizing opportunities, you cultivate a mindset that attracts abundance. When you focus on growth within, you are more likely to see the lessons in challenges, the potential in setbacks, and the opportunities in waiting. This perspective changes the way you approach situations extern. Ally, fostering positivity, creativity, and proactive problem solving. The energy you project from inner growth has a ripple effect, influencing outcomes in your career, relationships, and personal pursuits. Moreover, the habits you build internally manifest externally in every aspect of your life. Consistency in self-care, self-reflection, learning, and discipline creates a pattern of behavior that produces measurable results. When you prioritize growth within, it shows in your work ethic, your communication, your decision-making, and your influence. Small, intentional actions compounded over time result in significant external change. The quality of your inner life. therefore, becomes a reliable predictor of your external achievements. Leadership, too, is a reflection of inner growth. True leadership is not about position, authority, or recognition. It is about influence, integrity, and example. When you cultivate the qualities of self-awareness, emotional intelligence, discipline, and clarity, others naturally look to you for guidance, inspiration, and trust. The ability to lead effectively in your environment stems directly from the strength and depth of your inner life. Your external impact, therefore, is a direct result of the development and alignment you nurture within yourself. Confidence and self-assuredness, which grow from consistent inner work, shape external opportunities as well. When you believe in yourself and your abilities, your actions exude certainty and competence. People are drawn to those who are grounded, decisive, and authentic. Confidence allows you to step into opportunities that you might have avoided before, take calculated risks, and communicate your value clearly. This external manifestation of inner growth opens doors that would have remained closed to someone operating from doubt, insecurity, or indecision. The alignment between inner values and outer actions creates authenticity, which is essential for sustainable success. When what you do externally reflects who you truly are internally, your actions carry weight, credibility, and influence. You no longer have to pretend, perform, or manipulate outcomes to achieve results. Instead, your authenticity attracts the right people, situations, and opportunities naturally. Inner growth ensures that your external success is not only attainable, but also sustainable and fulfilling. Finally, inner growth fosters patience, focus, and perspective that allow you to navigate the journey of success with grace. You understand that immediate results are not always the measure of progress. You recognize the value of consistency, preparation, and strategic effort. You trust that the work you are doing within yourself is gradually influencing the world around you. And as your inner world expands, so too does your ability to achieve meaningful, lasting, and aligned success externally. Ultimately, the essence of this principle is that you cannot separate your internal development from your external achievements. Every skill, every mindset, every habit, every ounce of emotional and mental growth you cultivate within yourself becomes the foundation for the life you experience outwardly. The more intentional and disciplined you are in your inner work, the more effortless, aligned, and impactful your external results become. Inner growth is not just preparation for success. It is success in its most authentic and sustainable form. The journey of life is never about how much you give to others, how much you achieve for appearances, or how perfectly you fit into the expectations of the world around you. It is about the work you do within yourself, the focus, the healing, the growth, and the intentionality you bring to every thought, action, and choice. When you stop chasing validation, release what no longer serves you, and invest deeply in your own development, everything begins to align in ways that feel effortless yet profoundly powerful. The people you attract, the opportunities that come your way, and the peace you experience are all reflections of the commitment you make to yourself. Your inner strength, discipline, and clarity become the compass guiding you toward a life of purpose and fulfillment. When you focus on yourself, prioritize your growth, and honor your journey, life has a way of falling perfectly into place. Always remember, your most powerful work is the work you do on you.